Morning, friends. We're on chapter 4. I pushed open the Caldwell's door, which was seldom locked. "Hey, Maud," I yelled. "You home?" "You gotta shout like that," Robert asked, coming out of the bedroom. "Ain't nobody deaf around here. Maud's in the front room." "I'm sorry, Robert." I walked past him. He sure was one evil, black West Indian, and especially so since he lost his precious car. I know that nearly killed him, having to give that car up. When he used to visit Fifth Avenue with Elizabeth before they got dispossessed and had to move in with her mother, he would holler at us kids something awful just 'cause we touched his old shiny chrome. "Y'all keep your greasy hands off my car," he would command, and pay one of the boys a nickel to see that we didn't touch it. He was evil, all right, but good-looking, with broad shoulders and thick arms and legs. I went into the front room. Valley, dressed in a polka-dot dress, was poking about the sofa, looking under the cushions. With his round baby face, he almost looked like a girl, except for the greasy stocking cap on his head. "Hello, Valley." "Hi, Francie." "Hey, Maud," he called. "You know where Ma hid my pants?" "The last place you'd be expected to look for them," Maud said from the fire escape. "In the clothes closet." Valley went into the bedroom and came back with his pants. He slipped them under the dress, which he then whipped off over his head. His mother came into the room. I loved Mrs. Caldwell. She was that jolly and nice and fat and warm with her West Indian accent. "So, my son, you've found your pants, huh?" "Yes, Ma." "You going to come back upstairs tonight at a decent hour?" "Yes, Ma." Mrs. Caldwell sighed. "I don't know why your father upped and died like he did, leaving me with all these problems." "You making more problems, Ma, than you have to," Valley said. "What you trying to do, make a sissy out of me or something, making me wear Rebecca's clothes?" "Better a live sissy than a dead little boy," she said, going to Valley and straightening his shirt collar. "Ain't that right, Francie?" "I guess so, Mrs. Caldwell." Valley stayed out in the street so much that when he did come home, his mother hid his pants and made him wear his sister's clothes, knowing he wouldn't sneak downstairs dressed like a girl. "When you come back upstairs," Mrs. Caldwell told Valley, "bring me 2 penny licorice sticks." "Okay," Valley said, holding out his hand. His mother dropped 2 cents into it. She dearly loved licorice sticks. "Fransie's here," Mrs. Caldwell told Maud. "Come off that fire escape and talk to her." Maud grumbled something but didn't make a move. So when Sonny hollered down from the roof for Valley to hurry on up there, I followed him. Sookie was there too. "Hey, man," Sonny said to Valley, "what took you so long? I called you 3 times." "I had to find my pants." "Francie," Sonny said, looking at me from under his sleepy eyes, "you sure are getting tall for a girl, and skinny." "Hello, Sonny." I couldn't think of anything else to say, as usual, so I turned to Sookie. "Hi, where you been all day?" Playing jacks with you up until a few minutes ago. What's the matter? You losing your mind or something?" I could have killed her. She always did that, showing me up in front of the boys. "Come on," Sonny said, running toward the back of the roof. "Let's jump over the alley." He stopped short at the end of the roof and bowed. "Ladies first." I trailed behind them, deciding that no matter how bad they teased me, I wasn't going to jump. Everybody almost had jumped over that old alley at some time or another, except me. Any time I saw a crowd in the street looking down at something near the alley, I thought that James Jr. or Sterling had finally missed and fell while jumping over it. And no amount of teasing could make me do it. Valley always teased the most. Now he was saying, "A long-legged gal like you ought to be able to stretch from one side of that alley to the other." "Ain't it the truth?" Sookie agreed, and showing off, she backed up and with a flying leap jumped over to the other roof. Then, just to show how easy it was, she jumped back to our side again. "Go ahead, Francie," Valley urged. "Sookie's legs ain't even as long as yours." "Leave me alone, pretty brown girl," I said, knowing that would make him mad. Any hint about him wearing Rebecca's clothes did. Valley stopped smiling and leaped at me. In ducking away from him, I bumped into Sonny, who grabbed my arm. Should I throw her over the roof for you, Valley?" he asked. Sonny was big for his age and square as a box, and as he held me I thought for a moment he might not be kidding. Valley didn't answer. "Throw her over," Sookie said calmly. "Y'all stop playing like that with me," I said, nervous now. "I'm going to tell Junior." "You can't tell nobody nothing if you're dead, dead, dead," Sonny said, his eyes half closed. "I'll leave her alone," Valley said. Sonny released me, crossed the divider to the next roof, and ran to the door. "Y'all wait here a minute," he said. "I'll be right back." He disappeared inside, and a moment later came back out holding a black cat by the nape of its neck. A rope dangled from its head, and apparently Sonny had tied the cat to the banister earlier. "What you going to do with your grandma's cat?" Sookie asked. "Wait and see." Sonny walked to the side of the roof and dangled the cat over the edge. Suddenly his fingers sprung open and the cat fell. I screamed. "You son of a bitch!" Valley yelled. "What'd you do that for?" "Come on," Sonny said, running toward the door. Valley followed him, and I trailed behind, not wanting to go. I turned around to see if Suki was coming, and saw that she was quietly vomiting up her lunch. I raced down the stairs behind the boys to the basement, and out into the yard where the cat lay in a tangled mess of broken bones and black fur, slimy with blood. Sonny bent over the cat and then straightened up. "The bastard is dead." "What the hell did you expect?" Valley asked. "For him to jump up and kiss you?" "I expected him to have 9 lives, like they always say a cat has," Sonny said. He turned away in disgust. "They lied." I started to whimper. "It's all right, Francie," Valley said, pulling me up the basement steps. "Sonny is just crazy. I hope his grandma whips his ass for killing her cat like that." After breakfast on Sunday, Mother and I went to Abyssinian Baptist Church to hear Adam. Mother was a born Methodist, but she had been going to Abyssinian ever since we lived in Brooklyn. The old man was preaching then, Adam's father, and I used to think that he looked just like God with his long white hair and all. We never could get Daddy to go to church with us, although he did admit that Adam had done a lot of good in Harlem, particularly last year when he opened a free food kitchen and fed 1,000 people a week. Adam was also a leader in the rent strikes. Daddy said that was good, otherwise more people would have been set out on the street. But on the whole, Daddy would have nothing to do with churches and preachers. King James of England wrote the Bible, he was always telling Mother, and he made you happy hewers of wood and told you to serve your masters faithfully and you'd get your reward in heaven. You all believe that shit and been worshipping a white Jesus ever since. How in the hell could God take the black earth and make himself a white man out of it? Answer me that." But Mother never tried to answer. She just hauled me off with her to church and sometimes sent me to Mount Olivet Sunday School on 120th and Lenox Street. 120th Street and Lenox Avenue. Daddy didn't care whether we went to Sunday school or not, so naturally James Jr. and Sterling never went. Church was packed this morning. It was a hot day, and the sweat rolled down the congregation's faces as they joined the choir in singing. What are they going to do in heaven? What are they doing in heaven today, where sin and sorrow are all washed away, where peace abides like a river, they say? What are they doing there now? That song always made me think of the dead, and I was wondering what Mr. Caldwell was doing in heaven today when the lady next to me started screaming, "Praise his holy name! Do, Jesus, do!" I inched away from her so nobody would think we were together. She threw her fat self around like a top, and I felt like disappearing under the floorboards. Why did they have to shout and holler like that? Adam stood up to preach. He was a handsome, large man, so white he could have passed. Even before he opened his mouth, the lady next to me shouted again, "Preach his holy word, Adam. Thank thee, Father, for Adam Powell, Jr." Still shouting, she threw her arms out wide, almost knocking me sideways, then stiffened and leaped up. A nurse in white came running and grabbed the woman's hands and eased her back into her seat. The nurse began fanning her, and I turned to Mother. She smiled at me, and I smiled back, moving closer to her. First, Adam talked about Haile Selassie, asking the League of Nations for protection for Mussolini and how they was ignoring him. Then he almost wept about that terrible lynching in Florida that I'd read about in the Amsterdam News. His sermon was about Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt and how the Negro today was in worse bondage and had to free himself. I liked Adam. He talked about things that were happening today and preached such a powerful sermon that the sisters shouting hallelujah and amen kept me from dozing off. By the time he finished preaching, they were swooning and jumping up and down all over the church. As I followed Mother out, I was glad that, while she loved Adam dearly, she wasn't the shouting kind. The next day after school, I banged on Suki's door, and when she didn't answer, I went looking for her in the street, but she was nowhere to be found. I went up to her roof, which was 2 houses down from mine, and climbed down the fire escape to her apartment, which was on the top floor, too. There she was, looking out the window. "Come on in, Francie." "I knocked a little while back, but you didn't answer," I said. "I didn't hear you. I was looking out the window." "What you gonna do today?" I asked. "If we had some money, we could go to the show." "I got 15 cents, she said. "What you got?" "Nothing, but maybe I can get a dime for my father if I can go find him." "Okay, let's go." She didn't have to ask anybody if she could go to the show because there was nobody to ask. Papa Dan was drunk in some hallway somewhere, and Mrs. Maceo was a cook for a private family and didn't come home until around 9 o'clock at night. I found my father in Jocko's candy store. No, we don't have no homework," I told him, and he gave me a dime, and me and Suki walked on down to 116th Street. We couldn't decide whether to go to the Jewel or Regan Theater, and was arguing about it. There was a cowboy picture I wanted to see at the Jewel with Ken Maynard, my favorite. Sookie wanted to see zombies from Haiti at the Region. I don't know why I wasted my time arguing with her, because we walked right past the Jewel and headed for the Region further down the street, and I knew that picture was going to scare me so much I wouldn't be able to sleep. That white, bald-headed man who used to try and get me to come up on the roof and now followed me to the show every chance he got was standing outside the Jewel. I stuck my tongue out at him as we passed. He only bothered me when I was alone, so I knew he wasn't going to follow us. Right in the front of the Region, 6 or 7 people was laughing at a roly-poly black man trying to walk straight. How he could stand up at all was a miracle. With every step he took, he tilted so far sideways that everybody held their breath, thinking he was going to fall flat on his face. And when he made it without tumbling over, they whistled and hollered, "You did it, baby! Go, man, go!" The man grinned at them, happy because they was happy, took another staggering step, and slammed into the pavement. There was an instant of silence, a fear that maybe he'd hurt himself. But when he hunched himself up on his knees, the people cheered. After trying to get to his feet twice, he finally thought better of it and began to crawl on his hands and knees. The people laughed, and he giggled with them. Then an au fait cop walked up. "Okay, break it up. Let's get moving," he ordered. He grabbed the drunk in the collar and hauled him to his feet. The fat man's legs caved in, and he stumbled, almost pulling the cop down on top of him. The people laughed. The cop, red in the face, swung his billy upside the drunk's head. The fat man pulled away, dropping to his knees again, and rolled himself up in a ball, his head tucked under his arms. The cop kicked his behind and then brought his nightstick down on the man's shoulders. I grunted, feeling the pain. He didn't have to beat him up like that, I thought. He was just a helpless old drunk. A police car drove up. Another cop got out, and the two of them rolled the drunk to the curb and hauled him like a sack of potatoes in the back seat and drove off. A man muttered, "Damn cops. You can never find them when you want one, but they're always around to beat up a drunk." It was true, I thought. Last week, when a guy from the Ebony Earls tangled with a Harlem Raider, there wasn't a cop in sight until those boys had cut each other up so bad they both had to be taken to Harlem Hospital. Another man said, "We should have got that cop beating that poor man like that." "Yeah, you should have," a skinny woman said, her mouth curled up in a sneer. "But you didn't move a muscle, did you?" "I'll move a muscle and slap the shit out of you," the man said. "Yeah," the woman answered. "You can do that all right." Sighing and shaking her head, she walked away. Me and Sookie turned into the Region, slid our dimes under the ticket window, and got our tickets. That cop had no call to beat up that man like that," I said. "He should have whipped his raggedy ass so he could never use it no more," she said. "I hate drunks." She was mad again, just like that, puffed up and mad. There were some boys in the lobby looking at the coming attractions, and as we passed by, one of them whispered, "Pussy, pussy, who's going to give me some pussy?" "Your sister," Sookie said, evil as she could. They fell out laughing, happy because she had answered them. As I followed her down the dark aisle, I hoped the movie would make her forget about that drunk so she wouldn't be so evil. She wasn't any fun to be with when she was like this, because you had to be careful what she said. The least little thing would send her into a rage, and she'd be ready to fight again, and I wasn't ready for that. Wednesday was the last day of school, and I was pleased when I got my report card. I had 4 A's, 2 B+, and 1 C for tardiness. Sterling was graduating from Cooper Junior High tomorrow afternoon, and we was all going to go. But wouldn't you know, he had started acting up. That night we was in the dining room, and Mother was on her knees in front of Sterling, trying to pin up the cuffs on his pants he had on, which came down over his shoe tops. The seat of the pants hung way down past his skinny behind, and the sleeves of the jacket were so long his fingertips didn't even show. "I won't go," Sterling said. "I won't wear no dead man suit to my graduation." "You'll go and you'll wear that suit or I'll whip your butt," Daddy yelled. "Who do you think you're talking to in that way? You suddenly so grown up you can talk to me and your mother like that." Daddy had bought the suit from the pawn shop. It was a good buy, he said, because its owner had died, and the pawnbroker was letting it go for half price because it had a little bullet hole over the right pocket. "Don't talk about not going to your own graduation, Sterling," Mother said, her mouth full of pins. "You the first one in this family ever to graduate. Ain't I always said you'd be the salvation of us all? This suit don't look too bad, do it, Francie? And when I put a tuck in the waist and turn up the cuffs a bit." Sterling was almost in tears. Daddy's voice softened. "Your mother sews real good, Sterling. When she gets through, that suit will fit you fine. And she'll patch up that bullet hole, too. When I was a boy, I didn't have a suit where the coat matched the pants until I was 21, and I had to buy it myself. If only that last figure had been a one today, I could have bought you a new suit." Sterling pulled away from Mother and tore at the pants until they dropped to his feet. He stood there in his BVDs, looking more naked than if he had no clothes on at all, screaming, "I ain't going to wear a dead man's suit to my graduation." He jumped over the pants and ran into his room. I expected Daddy to charge after him and slam him up against the wall, 'cause, sassy as he was, Sterling had never defied Daddy like that before. But Daddy just looked at Mother and shrugged. "He'll be all right in the morning, Henrietta. Go on and fix the suit." But in the morning, Sterling was just as stubborn. He looked Daddy straight in the eyes and told him he wasn't going. Still, Daddy didn't whip him. "It's your graduation," he said. "Suit yourself." Then he left to pick up his numbers. Mother put on a clean house dress and headed for the door. "Sterling, you stay right here until I get back," she said, and left. I followed Sterling to his room. "I want to go to your graduation. How come you got to mess up? Get out of here before I punch you in the nose." He pushed me out of the room and slammed the door. Mother came home shortly after 12, carrying a big box. She marched into Sterling's room and dropped it on his bed. "Put these on," she said, "and hurry now. I want to get a good seat up front." Inside the box was a brand new knicker suit, a white shirt and tie and socks to match. "You'll have to wear your old sneakers," Mother apologized. Sterling jumped up and hugged Mother. She wriggled out of his embrace. "Go on now, Sterling, and get dressed before we be late. Francie, if you're going with us, come on now and let me braid your hair and wear your plaid skirt." We didn't hear Daddy come in until he said, "What's all the excitement about?" Mother told him in a rush. I walked uptown to Hazel's and borrowed some money from her and bought Sterling a new suit. Good thing today is Thursday and she was home. Daddy looked from Mother to the clothes on the bed. "How are we going to pay Hazel back?" Same way we've been paying her back," Mother snapped. "We ain't been worrying about that before, so don't start now. You going with us to the graduation?" Daddy took his time answering. Finally he said, "Of course I'm going." He turned to me. "Francie, when you gonna get your hair combed? It looks a mess. We don't want to be late waiting on you." It was a good day after that. Sterling won a medal for high grades, and Daddy was so proud he swelled up to twice his size, and he was big enough already. Junior came to the graduation too. He was late, but he got there. That night the Caldwells and Mrs. Maceo came over to see Sterling's medal, and Daddy played the piano and we sang the old songs and had a good time. I was in bed almost asleep when I heard Daddy get up in the middle of the night. A few minutes later, half dressed, he came to the front door with the suit he'd bought from the pawnbroker, stuffed into a paper bag, one sleeve dangling from it. "Where are you going, Daddy?" I asked. "What you going to do with that suit?" "Take it down to the basement and burn it," he said, and closed the door gently behind him. Have a good day, friends.